Hello. As you guys know, I haven't uploaded a video in quite a while because I started off my channel, posted a few videos, and then just sort of stopped. And well, today's video is going to be about why I stopped, what happened to me this year, and why I'm posting this video and restarting my channel. So, this video is going to be quite a difficult video to film. It's taken me a lot of courage to actually create, let alone post. So please be nice throughout the video and just sort of give me some support. So not many people know this, but I've suffered from some eating disorders for a couple of years now. And I thought I'd make this video because Eating Disorder Awareness Month is coming up. And, well, I've just been officially discharged, which means that I don't have to go back to the hospital for any tests, anything like that. So it basically just means that I'm permanently better. Everything started a couple of years ago when I was being pretty badly bullied. People were taking the mickey out of me, commented on my weight, because I was very big back then. And well, first it was just a few little name calls like, oh, he's quite fat, isn't he? Or the little snidey remarks. And then people started to say things like, you should lose weight, are you not disgusted with yourself? How can you look at yourself like that? And then it's just, even people's parents were saying things like that, and people were just staring at me and just... Everyone had something to say about my weight. So it made me, to be honest, made me feel really bad about myself. And no one at the age of, I was either 13 or 14, should be feeling like that. And I just couldn't even look in the mirror without just being angry at myself and wanting to just be a different person. And I've always had quite skinny friends, quite slim friends. And it was just something that didn't really bother me until people started picking on me because of it. So I'd been bullied the whole way through primary school, and it was never as much about my weight. It was more just because I was a bit different to everybody else in a way. For example, I was one of the ones who'd like to get messy and play football, things like that. I was more arty, so I'd like to do my own thing. Like, I'd rather sit down and draw a picture then go out and cover my face in mud, things like that. And, well, when I got to high school, it was a bit different because some of the people were nice, but there were people in the other years, some of my sister's friends even, and just decided to pick on me for sort of no reason. I hadn't done anything wrong, it's just because of the way I looked. And probably a few years of this, and of me trying to lose weight but putting everything back on, I decided to look online, and I searched up simply how to lose weight fast, how can I stop being fat, things like that. And at first it was just like exercise, so I started doing more and more exercise, and then the way I was doing was exercise until I physically can't move anymore, and I was doing that every single day. And I lost quite a lot of weight, but I wasn't seeing it, and that was when I sort of but that's when I started to realise I have body dysmorphia, which is when you see yourself differently to how you actually are. For example, you could be really, really, really big, but see yourself as really, really skinny. Or, like me, you could have been slimmer, but saw yourself as really, really big. For example, I only ever saw myself as the ball that people would call me. For example, people call me things like Theodore, they'd call me Humpty Dumpty, sort of stupid little names like that just meant that I was big. And, well, people started to make more and more comments, although I was exercising, and it was things calling me, like people would be walking down the street that I knew, or like knew of from school, and they'd say about how disgusting it is that I was that big. People saying, how can I live with myself, things like that. And then when I started being bullied, it was, you should die, things like that. and really extreme things. Like somebody turned and said that I should sell everything I own to get a tummy tuck, which, if you don't know, it's when you get the fat taken out of your stomach. And people were saying really, really like horrible things like that, which didn't make me feel good about myself at all. Which isn't something a 14-year-old should be feeling like. And I went back on the internet and searched up fast ways to lose weight, and I saw fasting, which is when you don't eat for a certain amount of time. So first of all, I thought that was a really good idea, so I started skipping breakfast. Then I started skipping breakfast and lunch, and then it was breakfast, lunch and dinner. And I probably lasted about a week or two with eating very little or anything at all. And I realised I started getting really lightheaded, I was getting really angry all the time. I just was feeling like I just wasn't myself, and it was really, really horrible. So then I started bringing the meals back in, and my mum and dad didn't really know at first because I was telling them that I was eating, although they started to suspect something after a while. And I just sort of always find a way to be able to skip a meal. And then I was still exercising a lot, which wasn't good at all, because it means I was exercising with nothing in my system, which, without me realising, was doing a lot of harm. So after I started taking the meals out, I had to slowly put things back in, so I was going a day with, say, an apple or a slice of bread, things like that, and I just knew that nothing was going to work, and I could feel myself sort of going, sort of like losing myself in a way. So I started eating again, and I put all the weight back on that I'd lost, and it just made me spiral down into this really depressive state. I just really hated myself. I didn't want to leave my room, I didn't want to leave the house. So I was getting my granddad to phone into school to sort of say that I was always ill, I had doctor's appointments, things like that. And one day I decided, right, I need to do something about this. I need to sort my weight out for like a proper way. So after just watching some TV, I come across an episode with Family Guy or American Dad, and it was when one of the characters showed how they keep themselves with a good body, and that was by making themselves sick. And well, I thought that's stupid, it never worked, so I started doing some research about it, and then I realised that a lot of people did do that. And of course I didn't know it was called bulimia back then or anything like that, and that was when I started to try it for myself, because I'd saw it on TV, so I thought it was a good idea. I didn't know it was dangerous. To me, it was just like someone wasn't very well, they're just being sick, which didn't really mean anything to me because I wasn't often unwell before this time. I had quite a strong immune system. So when I started doing it, it was, say, after breakfast or after one meal. And then I started doing it more and more until it got to the point after a few months of me doing it every time I ate, because I felt like my stomach had shrunk into such like a little ball that I couldn't handle any food. So I was, say, getting like stuffed from an apple or a few nuts or seeds, and it was starting to get physically painful for me to eat. And I realised after a while what it was doing to me, and doing more research. And of course I've been doing a lot more exercise, so I was exercising twice a day, once in the morning, once at night, and it was getting really difficult. So I started to get really lightheaded, I started having fainting episodes, things like that, and I couldn't concentrate, which I struggled with anyway, but this was a lot worse. I was struggling with sleep, and I just felt a lot weaker, and I've always suffered from something called anxiety, and my anxiety was getting a lot worse, and it's always been pretty bad, but not as bad as it was getting then. And I was suffering from depression and a few other things, and it was just getting really, really difficult. So what I decided is I need to fix myself. This isn't right. So I carried on with the exercise, but I tried to stop making myself sick. And it was going well for a good couple of months with a few variations. So for that couple of months I had to still not eat. So that was probably the first month. It was just rather not eating, or when I did eat, trying to physically stop myself from throwing up. So I'd keep drinking and drinking and drinking, just keep everything down, which to me I thought was a good idea. But then I noticed I started forever worrying that something wasn't right. Like, I shouldn't have to try and stop my own body from wanting to make itself sick. And then people started picking on me again at school because they noticed I started putting on weight again after I just tried to fix myself. And then I started spiralling back down the same way, going across the same path, just going back into this depressive state where I was making myself sick after every meal. I just couldn't physically eat without feeling like it had to come out of me again. And after I started doing this again, after a few months of doing it, I noticed all the same symptoms again. Like, I was feeling really lightheaded and nauseous and having really bad headaches all the time. And my vision started going more blurry than usual and things like that. So then I tried to stop myself again, except this time I couldn't stop myself. Although I thought I was getting better after a few days, my body started rejecting food on its own without me even having to touch anything. So I would eat, it would be okay for a few minutes, and then my stomach would keep clenching itself until it had physically pushed the food out of my body. And that was a very difficult time for me. And instead of coming forward and saying to someone about it, if someone said, "How are you losing weight?" I'd say, "Oh, just a bit of exercise," or "It's just something that happens when you're growing up," things like that. And I hadn't been in the best state because I'd been feeling very depressed at that time. And that is when I turned to other things, when I was trying to physically stop myself by distracting my body. And nothing worked. I tried drawing more, which I just found more difficult. I tried reading, I tried just anything I could think of to distract myself. And I realised I couldn't do anything. So I turned to something that I'd seen all over the internet, which was at the time self-harm, which is a very difficult thing for a lot of teenagers. And although there are some that just do it for attention because their friends are doing it, I was one that would do it on their legs or on their stomach or on my arms, because it felt like every time I'd done it, it felt like I was losing something out of me. It felt like I was relieving myself from the pain, which at the same time was like I'm getting lighter. So I would do it once a day, or every time I was feeling really, really depressed, or someone had said something, and it got so bad, like, I would never do it deep because I never wanted to scar. I just done it to know that I'm releasing something out of me to make myself lighter. And it was just, at first it was okay. Like, at first I thought I deserved the pain, so I just sort of took it as it come. But then, after a while, a few of my friends started to notice, and they were really concerned, so they sat me down and simply screamed and shouted at me, telling me to stop because they were worried, which I did do eventually, but not soon enough. And then I started scratching words into myself, things like across my stomach I was writing fat and overweight and things like that, which it felt horrible. Like, I'd get changed for PE and I would have to wear a t-shirt or a vest underneath, or wear loads and loads of bracelets up my arm just to hide everything. And I'd have to wear, say, longer shorts just to hide my legs. And that was a difficult thing for me, is getting changed in front of people. And it got to the point where I was falling over or running into things sort of more on purpose to break bones, because I thought that was better than getting changed in front of people. But as soon as I got given some casts from the doctors, I was wearing them more and more and making things up just so I didn't have to physically show any part of me to anybody else. And once I'd stopped physically self-harming because of what my friends were saying to me, so they'd say that really nice things like, "You know you don't deserve this, you're a great person, we love you," things like that. which, although it made me feel bad at first, it slowly made me feel better about myself. And so I stopped that. But my body never physically stopped pushing food out on its own. So I could never 100% distract myself. So I may have not been forced by myself to throw up after every meal. It could have been one meal or even just a little snack. It would just make sure I only had a certain amount of food in my body, if anything at all. So then I just didn't know what to do. I couldn't get any help, and then my parents started to sort of catch on to what was happening. They could hear me, they could see that I was degenerating in the way. I was getting really, really sort of pale, and you could start seeing my bones, but I couldn't see it because of the body dysmorphia. I just still saw myself as a blob, basically. So they would start confronting me about it, and I would say, no, I'm fine, nothing's happening. Or if they had said, why aren't you eating? I'd be like, I'm not hungry, I'm not feeling very well. And then I would come into this full mood swing and scream at my parents, saying that I hate them, saying that they're horrible to me, saying that just these horrible things you shouldn't say to your parents. But I couldn't control myself because my brain had gone crazy with just full of all the emotions I was keeping in from everybody else about my weight. And I started getting counselling, thanks to a couple of friends, and they didn't help, and I started getting really angry at them, so I shut the counsellor out. I said, right, I'm not going to do it, I can't do this anymore, I can't physically talk to you. So I left doing that, and I just didn't know what to do, so I started listening to a lot of music. For example, just like bands that I like, and I would listen to music a lot, and then after a while I started to shut them out as well. So my earphones were the most important things to me, and if I couldn't have my earphones on in class, or a teacher had caught me listening to music, I would freak out, like completely freak at the teacher, and I just wasn't myself. The teachers even said this wasn't me. They knew who I was, and they knew that I was a nice person, but something was going on. So they were assuming the worst. They were assuming that I was being beaten at home, things were really difficult at home, things like that, which weren't true. So I was getting angry and frustrated at them for saying things going on that aren't, and it was very difficult. I knew what was going on with myself, although I wasn't 100% sure why, but I just told them to leave me alone, get out of my life, I don't need you, you can just stop guessing, basically. And then one day my mum confronted me, and she was just like, Dylan, are you making yourself sick? And I simply said, no, I'm not making myself sick, it's not me. And to me, I was telling the truth, because I wasn't there. I wasn't making myself sick. My body was pushing it out. I wasn't physically doing anything. It was more like regurgitation, but my body was doing it on its own. For example, when you're ill and you throw up, you can't control it. It just happens, and that was what was happening to me. But yeah, I was feeling even more lightheaded than usual, and I said to the school that I just didn't feel right. My mum told them, like, they lied me down because I was going to faint. And I was crying because I just didn't know what was going on. I was scared and I was worried, and I thought I was honestly dying. And they phoned my mum, and my mum told them straight what was going on. And I was furious at her because I said she had no right to tell them. I would tell them in my own time, and that's how it was. And I know she was saying it because she cared, but in my head she was doing it because she hated me. And I went to the doctors on the Friday for the blood test, and they done the blood test like usual, and I was feeling more and more lightheaded each day. And I'd done this blood test, and I'd stood up, and I just couldn't see. Everything was black, so I made my way to the door, blind as a bat, and I went to open it, and I just felt myself go, and I fell back. Everything was going slow, and it felt, although I couldn't see anything, everything still felt like it was spinning. And I fell back and hit my head off of the wall and hit it on the side of a metal bin. And all I remember was lying there thinking, this is my time. And although I was scared and I was crying, I felt like I just needed to go. I thought that my time had finally come, and it was what I wanted. But then after about 10 minutes, the doctor after the doctor saying my name, asking if I knew who I was, things like that, I sort of opened my eyes and I was like, I answered his questions, and he got me on the he got me on the little doctor's bed thing, and he'd called my granddad to come over if my mum was at work. My mum couldn't physically leave; they wouldn't let her leave. So my granddad came and he was just like, "Oh, okay, yeah," and we left about 10 minutes after them talking to my granddad, and he said he'd take me out for lunch, and I was like, okay, I'll do this, and that was the first time in so long that I managed to have a meal and keep it down without thinking that I need to throw it up, doing anything. I actually kept it down. And that's when I was like, okay, I'm fine now. Although nothing happens that fast, I just felt like, okay, I can breathe. And then on our way to my granddad's house, he'd got a phone call from my mum, and she was anxious. You could hear that she was panicking, and she said, "You need to take him to the hospital. I've just got a phone call from the doctor. They said take Dylan into hospital as soon as you can. It's life-threatening. It's life or death, basically." And I heard this over the phone, and I was freaking out. I was saying, Grandma, what's happening? Am I dying? Because I didn't know. And this was in April this year, and he took me over to the hospital, and we had to wait for about half an hour. Eventually the doctor came over and she brought me into a room, and they put me onto the bed, and she ran over, took some bloods, and she said, "Dylan, just focus on me." And she put the tube about this long, she used the needle, got it in my arm, and it went in there, sorry, but you could see the tube till about there. And this was called if you ever been on the drip, that's what it was. And then she attached me to this machine which was putting things into me. I had no idea what it was. I thought she was putting water in me, quite frankly. And she was a really, really nice nurse. And I was just like, it's my sister's birthday the next day, so that made me feel even more horrible. And she was just like, I was like, "Oh, I'm gonna go home tonight, it's fine." I was texting my sister saying, "Don't worry, I'm just in the hospital for some tests or something." I didn't know what's going on. So I said, "Don't worry, I'll be back soon." But they then brought me up to I think it's called the high intensity ward, which when I had to keep a close eye on you every second. You can't be left alone. And then eventually a nurse came in and told me what was going on. And because I was getting worried, I was really scared. I want to go home. Someone get my mum, I need to go home. And I was like, "It's my sister's birthday tomorrow and I can't be in here." I was like, "What time am I going home?" And they said, "You're not." And I was like, "Well, that's not fair." And they said, "Right, just calm down and we'll explain to you what's going on." So I was like, "Okay, that's fine." So what they told me is that she said, "You told us you've been doing this for 2 years, but what you don't know is you've been slowly dying for 2 years. You've been deteriorating at such a fast rate that you should be dead." And that felt like I'd been shot. And she was like, "We know this is a shock, but your bloods are the worst bloods I've seen." She said that she's been working for 10 years and she'd never seen bloods that bad. And she said that because I'd been doing this for so long, I was missing so much stuff in my blood, it may as well have been water. She said that potassium, which is something that you need to live, she said that I had none in my body. My blood the potassium in my blood was untraceable. The iron in my blood was practically nothing. That was how they had to try and properly look down to find iron. But my blood was so thin and that's why I was so pale. They said that I should have at least been in a coma. That's how serious it was. And they said it was a miracle that I was still walking around and talking as if nothing had happened, when really I should have died, which really scared me. But it also took me back down to earth. Like, I realised that, right, Dylan, we need help. So I was in there for a week, and that was the point. That day my mum phoned into the hospital to see if everything was alright, and I said, "Some man came to talk to me this morning, some doctor in red clothes, and he'd also suffered from bulimia when he was younger." And of course I didn't even know I was bulimic, I didn't even know that was a word. And he was saying that it happened. He said my teeth were in good condition for someone who had been bulimic for 2 years, and he said that now I'd had a rare form of bulimia, which is where your body will reject food in a way without you having to even touch your throat. You don't even have to cough. It'll just come out. And he said that he'd been bulimic for only a few months, and he said that his teeth were all rotten and everything, and it was really, really, really nasty. And he was amazed at what I was. And I had, this conversation was the realest conversation I'd ever had with someone. And my mum came in the next day, and I told her about this doctor who'd also been through it, and I'd found out so many facts and stuff that he was telling me. But then the nurse came in, and I was saying to mum, she was like, "What are you talking about?" And I said the doctor's name and everything. And then she said, "That's not one of our doctors." And she said that she had no idea who I was talking about. She said that I had imagined it, I'd created a false memory. So she told me to tell her in detail everything that happened. And I told her all these crazy facts that he had said. And for some reason, every one of these facts was true, but this guy didn't exist. There was no trace of him being. It was just me. And this scared me. It blew over in a few days. But then there was this nurse that came to me at midnight every night. So I had to have bloods 6-7 times a day. It was like every couple of hours I had to have it. And then I'd had 5-hour breaks in between if my blood was good. And every time they come at midnight, they'd wake me up to do it. And then I have to do an ECG, which is when they put like stickers on your body attached to wires, just sort of test your nervous system, things like that, and like your heart. And one night I was in there, she came in, and she was really, really friendly, and she'd done my bloods, and all I remember is for some reason I'd hallucinated this really badly, but I saw her digging into my fingers, because the doctor struggled to get the blood out of my fingers because my temperature was so cold. They made me hold on to this rubber glove filled water, like warm water, to warm up my hands. And it was like she was stabbing me in my hands, and what she was only doing, she's only doing her job, she's only doing the finger prick. But to me, it was like I could see her jabbing it into my fingers as hard as she could, scraping, trying to get into this little tiny tube. What was I say? It was tiny, it was like that. But I complained that the next morning. I said, doctors and nurses can't do this. Although she's a blood nurse, she had no right. And then she came in and said that I was asleep and I was having a night terror, like in pain. And she said that she comforted me and I was okay after a while. And it turns out, just because I was so cold, I was feeling the pain so much more. And I was dreaming what I thought was happening to me, although she's only taking these tiny little finger pricks. And she has to do a little scrape just to try and get all the blood off. But she wasn't digging it in or anything. And that was a horrible, horrible thing. It was really scary. And then I had a lady from CAMS. If I can even remember, it's... Jesus, it's like child, adolescent, mental health service. Something like that. And it's like a group of therapists and counsellors that just give you help, mainly teenagers, but adults as well, and kids and everything. And she came in and she was talking to me, and she was saying about how we can overcome this. And they said, she kind of said, she's just like, okay, you're going to have these for quite a long time, and we need to do your weight. And she was like, how much do you think you weigh? And I was like, I knew exactly how much I weighed. I said 6.5 stone. And she stood back in shock. Like, she said, that's insane. You're 16. I'm 5'5.5. And she said, I should not be 6.5 stone. And she done this weight. And I wasn't. I was 6.2 stone. And I was thrilled. I was over the moon that I was this light. Because in my head, even 7 stone was huge. But most of the boys in my year were between 9 and 11 stone. And when she told me that, I was shocked to think that. And little by little, on the last day, she said, right, this is going to be the last time I'm doing your weight. And I'd gone up to 6.5, which she said I was going up at a good rate. And she said, there's one thing that it's going to be very difficult to tell you. And that was why I was smaller than everybody else. And things like that, and why I was just seemed a lot younger. And she said it because I had stumped my growth. And they didn't know if it was temporary or permanent, and they still don't know now. So it just depends until I'm 21 if I'm growing. And at the moment I'm growing at a normal rate, but even somebody stumped their growth can grow this tiny little bit. So I'm still worried about that. But they said that the worst thing about it, which the nurse found hilarious, but I found horrible, was that I had prolonged puberty, which is when you go for it for longer. And to me, till I was about 15, I had the highest pitched voice. I sounded like a mouse on helium. And that's why, another reason I was called Theodore, because I had a chipmunk voice. And I was like, you're telling me I've gone through all of this, and I've done all this to myself, and now it's going to be a lot worse. And she said, yeah. What she said to me, which I'll never forget, was, has to get worse before it gets better. And I still use that now, and it's been 6 months of therapy, counsellors, parents force feeding me, things like that. And what I can say now is I've been officially discharged. I'm now 8.4 stone. No, I think I'm 8.5 stone, sorry. And I don't have to take my tablets anymore. I still have to take Forte juices, which are fine. They don't taste as horrible as I thought they would. And I don't have to see nurses, doctors, or anything like that again. And I'd realised that I can do this. I can start getting better. And now I'm fine, but it was a very, very, very difficult 3 months. I'd had slip-ups. I'd gone through the same spiral, which I've probably said about 10 times in this video. But I'd gone back down, and it was hard. It was honestly so difficult for me. But here I am now. I'm alive. I'm well. I'm happy. I'm now at college. I passed my GCSEs, mostly. And I'm doing what I want to do, which is art and photography. And I'm so happy with how far I've come. And it's taken months to do this video, probably about 2.5. I'd had the idea to do it, but I just couldn't. I couldn't physically do this video because it was so difficult for me. But I'd recently read something about the percentage of children with mental health disorders and things like that. And I was shocked. So I thought, if I want to restart this video, let's do it something that's close to my heart. And that's why my new channel, it's gonna be just random videos. Some will be vlogs, some will be challenges, some will be just simple sketches, and even some might just be talking videos. And it's to show teenagers, kids, adults, anybody that they're not alone if they have a mental health disorder. And the only mental health disorder I have now is anxiety, which I've had since I was very, very young, and I'll probably have for the rest of my life. But everything else is gone. I'm starting to see myself a lot better now. And if I can, I'll try and put up 2 pictures. One of me, like, 6 months ago. So before I started getting really bad and I was rapidly deteriorating and losing weight, to the day I left hospital. and you can see the difference. And then there's me now, which I'm a lot happier with. I'm not perfect, but I'm happy, and that's all that matters. I still occasionally have off days, and I'll see myself in the mirror and I'll be like, God, Dylan, what are you looking like today? And I just laugh it off. For example, one day I think I'm fat, and I'd be like, I could distract myself and be like, well, that's a disgusting shirt you're wearing. Why are you wearing that? And then I'll just laugh about it, and it's all over. And I still listen to my music, but now my music is more therapy for me. It's not pushing everything else away. Instead, it's calming me down and saying, Dylan, breathe. Listen to the song, and then just go back to how things are. And I'm a lot happier with my friends now. I've made a lot of good friends at college, and I'm just happy. And that's all you really need to be. And I think everybody should be happy with themselves, even if it's just happy with your eyes, happy with one fingernail. Like, as long as you like part of yourself, that's all that matters, and that's all you need to focus on. And in my eyes, everybody's perfect, because imperfections are what make you you. And just because you may have an imperfection doesn't mean you're bad, doesn't mean there's anything bad about you, it just means you're different. And I'm all about individuality. For example, everybody else in my photography class does the most amazing pictures and they'll present their book in one way, but me, I like to put my sort of own individual flair, if you like, into my work. So I'll do watercolour backgrounds and I'll paint, and I'll just put my, like, all my artistic talent into my page and just make it so it shows who I am. And I think everybody should have something like that. You should just find something you're good at, and that can be your distraction, that can be your self-help. Counsellors are good, but they're difficult to find, they're difficult to get on. Say, if there's a list in your school, that I'm telling you to sign up. Sign up will be the best thing for you, but it will take months and months and months. So it's always good to speak to someone about it, even if it's your best friend, even if it's your dog, even if it's a fish. Just as long as you've got someone to talk to, it will help. And just find something to distract yourself, and that will be all you need. Just, in my eyes now, nobody's fat, nobody's skinny, you're just you, and that's how it is. For example, I'm not skinny, but I no longer see myself as fat. I just see myself as Dylan. Dylan is Dylan, and that's it. Like, there's things I don't like about myself. For example, my ribs are very sticky out, but I find a joke in it. And I'll say, it's fine, I'm on with the pigeons, and things like that. And I know people say you should always love yourself, but everybody will be unhappy with one thing, but try and ignore that. Find something you're happy with and focus on that. Even if it's not even a part of your body. Say if there's one pair of underwear you like, or a special sock, or my lucky bracelet, for example. If that's what you like, that's on your body, then focus on that. Every time you're feeling down, just remember, I'm me, I'm nice. Just focus on all your good traits, not the bad. But just remember that everybody is suffering in some sort of way. Everybody feels the same way, even if it's feeling sad, angry, happy. Everybody might not be feeling exactly what you're feeling in the way that you're feeling it, but they're still feeling it, or they have felt it at one point in their life. And that's, you just need to know that you're never alone, and that's what's important. For example, my videos are going to be something to distract people. It will show you that you're not alone. You show you can get through it the way that I have. And it just shows you that even if you think you're at the lowest of the low, you cannot honestly get any better there is always hope. And as long as you can find that hope and find the good, that's all you can do, and that's all you can focus on. And just live your life, and just live your life to be happy and care for others the way that people care for you. And if they don't care for you, or they're being mean to you, or there's a bully in your life, just shut them out. Just imagine yourself amongst these bullies, but these bullies are ants and you're a giant. So you can walk through them and they can't do anything to hurt you. And that's it. Bullies are nothing. They're probably just feeling the way you're feeling about yourself, or they might be having something going on with them, but they're too afraid to tell anybody, so they're taking out on you. And you just need to remember, don't retaliate, because I've retaliated to people, which is just uncalled for, and I didn't realise that they were feeling a certain way, and I didn't realise they had a lot of going on, and it makes you just as bad as them if you react, not even in the same way, even if you flick them, that's still retaliating, that's still being just as bad as they are. Just never stoop to somebody that low's level, because as long as you're on top, as long as you come out looking good, that's all that matters. And that's all I can say. I'm here, I'm happy, and that's about it. That was probably about 10 hours long, but just remember, people like me are here. We'll always be there. Just, you might not be there physically, but someone will be there in your heart. That's probably not inside my heart, but you know what I mean. So please like, comment, and just subscribe on this video, and just give me some support. And if you know somebody who's feeling this way or has got anything going on, tell them that you're there. You can even send them this video, send them a link just to show that they're not alone, and it will honestly make a difference, and that's all I can say. So